Molokini Crater, off the island of Maui. Sunrise. Conditions? Excellent. (10 to 12 feet), 100% coral cover, excellent species variation, good fish populations. Black-lipped butterflies, yellow tang. Unicorn fish, teardrop butterflies, bluegill triggerfish.
Aloha, I'm Matt Roving, and this is Reeftime, Hawaii. I'm here with a guy who needs no introduction, Snorkel Bob himself.
Thanks, Matt, and thanks for being with us today all the way from Podunk Holler. Quite a show as they dart back and forth in the surge. Here we have a Moorish idol, a species unto himself. One fish makes the entire species. We're here today mostly to focus on the personalities of the fish and making communion. What are these, Matt?
Those are blue-striped snapper, or ta'ape. They were introduced to Hawaii.
So they don't naturally occur here?
Correct.
It's wire coral, also known as whip coral.
That's an epaulet soldier fish.
It's an interesting dialogue. It's another introduced fish, voracious predator, does a lot of damage on the reef. Of note here, though, is his partnership with the eel. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Honu, Hawaiian green sea turtle. What a beauty. What a cutie. And look how friendly. Okay. Aloha to you, too. Of all urasses, the Hawaiian clean wrasse is icon to reef recovery. He's heavily oppressed by the aquarium trade. He'll die in 30 days without 30 to 40 other fish to clean. He never stops effusing color and movement, and for that reason, the tank lovers want to keep him. What's the critical service he performs on the reef? Let's take a look. What's going on here, Matt?
Cleaner wrasse is picking parasites off this yellow-striped goatfish. You can see him nibbling on the scales and the gills.
Looks like the goatfish is holding still for it, much as we would lay still for the dentist to do what seems unpleasant but we know is necessary. This big-eye emperor looks like he might enjoy a Hawaiian cleaner wrasse snack, but he's not. He's holding still. This is a classic illustration of symbiosis, favors traded on the reef. And here we have the Hawaiian cleaner wrasse rendition of Open Wide. Even cleans the gill plates. Now this big parrotfish is not holding still. In fact, he looks a little impatient, maybe even irritated. Is that because of deeply embedded parasites, Matt?
Could be, Snorkel Bob.
And these nervous-looking opelu never break formation as a school, and they never stop looking in every direction for bigger predators. But notice they are hanging out for the Hawaiian cleaner wrasse to go from fish to fish and clean the parasites from their skin. And what a lovely serendipitous arrival we have here. Chocolate dip chromis, so named because Neptune takes each one at birth and dips it in chocolate. Matt, is that an anemone clownfish?
Snorkel Bob, that is a juvenile yellowtail chorus.
so it looks different when it grows up?
That is correct. The orange body with white spots gradually turns through puberty and adolescence into this.
Yellowtail chorus. That's a male, am I correct?
Correct, with the bright green psychedelic lines on the eyes.
I used to have those. What does the female look like?
This is the female, much darker.
And an admirable dorsal spike as well. Here we have a bird wrasse, so named for the bird-like beak, which allows it to probe into the coral crevices for small critters that it feeds on. An excellent idea, unless you happen to be a small critter. This is the female of the species. The male is dark green and bigger. These fish are always on the move. What do we have here, Matt?
This is a rock mover wrasse. It'll pick up rocks from the bottom, turn them over for critters that it can nibble on.
Now, these apex predators, or alua, there's actually several varieties of alua. What struck me most about all of these was their sociability and their willingness to allow you to get near them with a camera, Matt.
In a marine preserve, you'll find that the larger predator fish like this allow you to get much closer than in non-protected areas.
You're suggesting that they know that a camera is different than a spear gun.
That is correct, Snorkel Bob.
It seems often to me like less than fair play when these guys come alongside and give you the vibration. Let's maybe run together, and the response is a spear. Maybe that's just me, but I don't think so. These are very friendly animals if given a chance. Unless, of course, you're a small fish.
Speaking of running together, Snorkel Bob, notice how this alua is going to join up with the peacock groupers there in the background to the left.
So what we're about to see is interspecies cooperation toward achieving a similar or common objective. See the peacock grouper. As I mentioned earlier, these fish are introduced. They do a lot of damage on the reef. But this relationship, as you say, is particularly dramatic and interesting. There off screen now is a moray eel. Is that a whitemouth?
Yes, that's a whitemouth moray.
And so what's going to happen? They actually cruise together, and they take turns. One covers the rear entrance to the hole, and the other covers the front entrance.
We often notice that the eel will be swimming out front into the crevices, in and out of the coral heads, and then the alua will follow as the eel flushes out.
And there they are. And they take turns, and it must work out as an even balance on who gets the reward. I guess the eel uses the alua as a deterrent. Don't come out of the hole, or the alua will get you, and if you stay in the hole, I'll get you. This is a good-sized fish, Matt. What's the size on him?
60 pounds plus.
And he's curious. No threat. Social engagement. I'm okay. How about you? Cute little guys. What are these, Matt?
That's a crown puffer.
In this beautiful seaweed, we see every now and then, not always, it's alameda grass, usually a little bit deeper. And as you can see, this is covered with algae. And the puffers are doing their little bit to control that. And this is
A striped-bellied puffer, often mistaken for a white-spotted puffer.
these guys are often uncertain, tentative, and again, I have to commend you in your ability to make these fish feel comfortable. He's not only allowing you to get close, he's turning to check you out. White-spotted tobies, always an entertainment. Rarely photographed or videoed because they're so common. But what a great show they put on. Now this is an unusual puffer. You suppose this is Randall's puffer? Do you suppose this is named for Jack Randall?
Yes, Jack Randall named this.
He likes chewing on that little pebble. Maybe there's some soft tissue attached to it, or maybe he's trying to make us think that he's engaged, so we won't think of him as a little snack.
Certainly these little guys do clean the reef and keep it live and vibrant.
This makes they make a nice couple, and they look live and vibrant themselves. We're always happy to see that. Okay, this is these animals touch everybody's heart. Honu is Hawaiian for Hawaiian green sea turtle. This is a very healthy individual right here, an adolescent, real clean. Nothing wrong with this guy or gal. You can see how trusting these turtles are, not only unafraid, but curious, engaging. Now, this is a cleaner station. These are green sea turtles too. What's happening here, Matt?
The gold ring surgeonfish, or colae, are eating algae off the turtle's back at a cleaning station. They'll hover there for hours.
And the turtle holds perfectly still. I've heard the turtle can feel that and actually enjoys it. I want to add here again, keep the bad news brief. It's not only unnecessary for anyone to eat these turtles, it's a different world we live in than it used to be, and it's a terrible idea. The idea that these turtles should come off the endangered species list is a bad idea, and we at Snorkel Bob's and the Snorkel Bob Foundation will resist it in any way we can. Is this a Lazy Turtles cleaning station?
Boy, those yellow tangs are enjoying themselves there.
Looks like the turtle's in a groove too. Honu ea, or red turtle, also known as hawksbill sea turtle, characterized by the hawk-like beak, and also, you'll see in a minute, the serrated trailing edge of the shell. These turtles were hunted to near extinction for their shells, for use in eyeglasses and mirror handles and hairbrushes. This individual is the turtle formerly known as Prince, so named because it was first seen off the beach of the Prince Hotel. I don't want to take anything away from you, Matt, but these shots were taken with a digital ELF camera on video mode by Anita, who was also in telephoto mode, so she wouldn't get arrested or fined $25,000 for harassing a turtle. What do you think of that?
Beautiful.
This individual is a heroine of Maui. Her name is Orion. She comes up every 3 years or 4 and lays 5 nests or 6 with something like 80 to 90% viability of the eggs. You'll see a little bump on her shell. It's a satellite telemetry device, so she's tracked at all times. She is a trooper. She is one of very few nesting females remaining on Maui. Probably 50 or so individuals on the Big Island. These turtles really need our help. And she's entering the sea there after depositing her last clutch of eggs. These black-lipped butterfly fish, also called dirty mouth, not a very nice name, are so called because they look like they've gone through a soot patch. They're very similar to these millet seed butterflies, but these millet seeds are bright yellow, much more heavily oppressed by the aquarium trade for that reason, although both fish are beautiful to watch. Four-spot butterflies. My illustrious snorkel buddy from Podunk Holler constantly reminds me that you have to count both sides to get 4 spots. Notice the body language. This is a mated pair. They move well enough together to be on Dancing with the Stars, and probably should be. Teardrop butterflies are named for the teardrop on the side. What about these fish, Matt?
They often cling closer to the reef than many of the other butterflies, Snorkel Bob.
And you think they're hanging out, or are they in pursuit of something to better their position on the reef?
Most likely in pursuit of food.
Oh, nice dorsal flare. Nice shot, Matt. Saddleback butterflies, we don't see them much anymore.
Thank you, Snorkel Bob. These were found in a marine reserve on Maui. Less common outside of the reserve areas.
And like most things in Hawaii, that's nobody's fault. I'm being facetious, of course, it's everybody's fault, especially those who fail to protect our reef fish and allow our reefs to recover. This too is a mated pair, moving well together. Scanning for movement, little tidbits. And these are threadfin butterflies. If you look very closely, you'll see that the dorsal fin trails a thread-like trailer or fin or pennant, whatever you want to call it, but that's how they get their name. All the butterfly species are named for some visual characteristic. Well, here's something more general. This is an ornate butterfly, and they are nothing if not ornate. These fish are said to mate for life. You'll almost always see the other where you see the one. And here too, body language is choreographed like a pas de deux. Pyramid butterfly. What about these fish, Matt?
Well, obviously it has a pyramid-shaped white patch in the center of its body, and they tend to school higher off the reef than many of the other butterflies.
It's interesting that in some places in Hawaii, these fish are considered species of concern. That's Hawaii euphemism for we don't see them anymore. And we see big columns schooling in some places. Now here's a raccoon butterfly, and so named for the raccoon-like mask. And it's a common characteristic to many fish that we see on the reef where the eye is covered with a black patch. You'll see that the circle on the back is meant to look like something. We can only speculate, but my feeling is that the eye is covered with a black patch on many fish to cover up the eye itself and avoid detection. Interesting to note, there's one predator that they cannot avoid, and that is the aquarium hunters. And I want to remind everybody that 99% of all fish taken for the aquarium trade die within 1 year. That statistic came from one of the renowned authorities in that trade. These are long-nosed butterfly fish, also oppressed by the aquarium trade. These are one of the most graceful, expressive fish just by movement of their pectoral fins that we see on the reef. The long nose obviously here is used to reach into crevices and holes for tidbits, which is another lovely idea, again, unless you're a tidbit. This uhu, or parrotfish, is a classic persona of what is wrong with Hawaii reef management. He's a beauty, and unfortunately, when he sleeps at night, he is 100% unprotected. Now, he's protected naturally. He'll form a cocoon of mucus, which shields him from the perceptions of other night hunters. They can't feel his vibration, they can't see him, they can't feel much of anything. Unfortunately, again, there's one hunter that he can't hide from, and that's the night spear fisherman with either scuba or surface supplied air. Now, the Department of Land and Natural Resources has some exotic formula to protect parrotfish, I think, and it goes to dividing the hypotenuse by the triangular obfuscation of something or other. The fact is, the night spear guys are wiping out entire reefs of uhu. And I think that the Department of Land and Natural Resources is in its 3rd or 13th year of scoping. That's discussion, and the situation is prevailed upon by the guys who can threaten and yell the loudest. We need to make a few bucks here. This is a red-lip parrotfish, a real beauty, and a star-eyed parrotfish. Our parrotfish are calling out for some management protection, especially from the night spear fishermen. This is one of the most prolific manta ray breeding grounds and cleaning stations on planet E. Where is it? You won't be surprised to know that we're not going to say. Why is that? Let me ask you a question, Matt. Is it legal for someone to come in and harvest this fish, say a boat from Taiwan, just to catch this fish for meat?
A boat from Taiwan could not come in and take our manta rays, but a boat from Monterey Bay Aquarium just might. A bill to protect Hawaii mantas was introduced to the legislature, and the Department of Land and Natural Resources testified against it. Long story short, the bill got amended. So the meat fishermen can't take our manta rays, but an amusement industry can. They call it education and science. The mantas will not survive very long in captivity. I don't know about you, Snorkel Bob, but it breaks my heart to think about it. They call it sustainable. I call it a shame.
Excellent shots here, Matt. Once again, you have succeeded in making the animals feel thoroughly relaxed, unthreatened. I want to point out the front, I'll call them lips. They're known as cephalic flaps. Curled outward like this is the most hydrodynamic position for movement. If they're hanging straight down, that means the manta is allowing itself to be cleaned, and you'll often see the gills flex open to allow entry by the cleaners. And then if the cephalic flaps are in an oval shape, that directs the water into their baleen. These are baleen feeders, just like the big whales. They have no teeth per se. They filter feed this zooplankton that you can see floating in the water.
They circled there for an hour as we watched.
Possibly the most graceful swimmers in the sea. Moorish idol. This is another iconic beauty on the reef for obvious grace and beauty. Again, you see the black bar over the eye, quite possibly to confuse predators. These fish fluctuate in their populations based on different conditions in the ocean. They are completely unprotected by the state of Hawaii and heavily oppressed by the aquarium trade. Most of them die in 30 days. They are officially described by experts in that industry as unsuitable for transport. Yet they're captured and shipped out of Hawaii because the aquarium hunters have to pay bills and mortgages and so on and so forth, and that's only human, isn't it? It needs to stop on a dime. Another example, while we're on the subject, is, say, hermit crabs. You don't need a permit for hermit crabs. The aquarium hunters have taken hundreds of thousands each year. Hermit crabs are another linchpin species that can cause a reef to collapse by their sheer absence. If you see somebody with an aquarium, why don't you tell them what our ex-president Ronald Reagan told Mikhail Gorbachev when he said, "Mr. Gorbachev, take down this aquarium." Hey Matt, was that over the top?
Nah, give him hell, Snorkel Bob.
Well, what is this, Matt? This looks like footage of a rock.
That's a giant frogfish, Snorkel Bob.
Whoa, Bubba, that rock is moving. It's swaying to the music. And now, I think I see his mouth and his eye. Most incredible thing about the giant frogfish is he will actually try to engulf objects bigger than himself. I tried that once when I was in college, and it didn't work out. It was a joke. I almost killed myself. He does have a little diddler at the end of a prong he uses as an angler. He's an angler fish. He attracts, he gulps. And in his way, he gracefully meanders the bottom.
This is a school of the blue stripe snapper with a pair of oval butterflies down below and another pair of ornate butterflies next to them.
And a pink-tailed Durgan bringing up the rear.
The interesting part about this particular school is you'll notice a visitor to the school.
Trumpet fish.
He's hiding in the school.
Trumpets often mimic the movement and color of a host group of fish, and they change color like some animals do, but not defensively. They change offensively. He's trying to look like a non-threat to whoever might be below, and then he can come out from cover and make his move. Here it could be the same exact fish, same individual in school bus yellow. Maybe there's some yellow tangs nearby. What do you know? Because yellow tangs are herbivores, trumpets are not. Now, what is this urchin, Matt?
That's a banded urchin, juvenile or adolescent. As they become older, they get dark, almost black.
Well, this guy looks to be in full gallop. What do you think he's in such a hurry to get to?
He's going across the sand desert, probably on his way to another coral head.
Now, I, Snorkel Bob, hate to call any animal in the ocean ugly, but this crown of thorns starfish is formidable. Not only is he ditchwater green, but those quills or spikes carry a neurotoxin that can be quite debilitating. I know one woman who just brushed her hand against one inadvertently and lost the use of 2 fingers. It had been a few years when she showed me her injury, so I don't know if she recovered or not. I know that different crowns of thorns in different oceans have different levels of toxicity. These green ones in Hawaii are particularly hazardous. You brought up a good point, Matt. You actually say that some people kill them because they do kill the coral. We don't know if that's a good idea or not.
This is a barred filefish. You see the pattern. It looks like ribs there on the back.
That's not his ribs sticking out?
No, it's flat. It's just a surface decoration.
Huh. I thought he just swam in from Jenny Craig's. The most notable characteristic of the barred filefish is his bridge work. Nice shot, Matt. White tip reef shark sleeping on the bottom. Do you know of any other sharks that engage in this behavior, bottom sleeping?
The nurse shark also sleeps on the bottom.
Is that guy snoring? All the angelfish are skittish, and the potter's angel is no exception. Again, we don't see these fish very much anymore, except in the protected areas. It's obvious that the aquarium trade is focused on individuals with color and movement, and you can see why the potter's angel is in trouble from those guys. You've done a particularly good job here, Matt, in making these fish feel unthreatened and comfortable. Many times they'll dart for cover if you get anywhere near. It's also unusual to see 2 or 3 fish of this species in the same frame. And here we have actually 4 at one point. Oh, Matt, you have outdone yourself. This is the Holy Grail, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is a flame angel. Brilliant red, vertical bars. These fish have been hunted to disappearance. And I know where this fish is, and you won't be surprised to find out I'm not going to tell you where. We actually have heard of heinous tales of these fish being spotted. The word gets out, they're gone within 2 or 3 days. Why? They wholesale for $40. What's wrong with this picture? Well, it's a still shot because we don't get to see these fish. This is the first one I saw live ever in Hawaii. We have no regulation, no protection whatsoever. That's $40, and he's in the crosshairs. It's not right.
You can understand why they're so difficult to film. They're always on the run, always hiding.
Well, he sure suspects at any rate. Although I would say you've got him to relax as well as could be expected. What a little gem. And 99% of all fish hunted in Hawaii, 99% die within the first year. I don't know what the lifespan of these guys is on the reef. I always use as my barometer yellow tangs. They'll live 40 to 45 years on the reef as opposed to a year in a fish tank. It's been great, Matt. I'm Snorkel Bob himself, and this is my longtime snorkel buddy, Matt Roving. Say goodbye, Matt.
Goodbye, Snorkel Bob.
Aloha. This is the scene we arrived at, and you can imagine our concern because these babies are motionless, and we didn't know what to think. There's one, two, and then there's actually a third baby far to the right. His head is coming out, and we thought they were dead. And you're not supposed to touch them. And I started calling around to everyone I knew, including you, Cheryl. And no one was picking up. Should I pick them up and move their little flippers? Should I do anything at all? And we pretty much stayed there filming them, not knowing what to do until nature showed us what to do. Can you tell us what's happening here, Cheryl?
Yeah, well, like we mentioned before, they're not supposed to come out during the day, and that's all about temperature. When the sand is really warm, they know it's daylight, so they don't come out. Well, these guys have probably gotten pushed up a little bit by their brothers and sisters below them, eager to get out of the nest, and it's just kind of happened. And after getting so far, they're just gonna go. There's just no turning back now.
So you think it's safe to say, even though it's still just a theory, that the first two emerged and saw that it was daylight, they made a mistake, and they tried to go back into the dormant phase, but these, as you can see, these guys underneath them, it was just too rowdy. And there's, what, a chain reaction from one to the next, and it kind of sets it all off.
Yeah, it's called social facilitation. They all kind of work together as a group to get out of the nest originally. And then, like we said, it's temperature dependent, but since it's an overcast day, that might have just, been the trigger to just go.
Social facilitation could apply to turtle babies or, say, soccer fans trying to get on the field.
True.
It all triggers itself, and it's a good thing to see. Let's just go ahead and watch them. You can imagine our excitement at this point. We actually finally could count them. Very difficult to do until they get spread out a little bit. You'll see some of them, the sand sticks to them. Is that because they're moist?
It's actually very dry. This is a dry environment, but their eyes are the most moist part on the turtles, and they don't open their eyes when they're underneath the sand because it's dark down there. They're just crawling to get to the surface, but once they come out, they do obviously get the first view of their new world, and they are going to open their eyes. And it's just amazing how they're trying to orient right now, trying to figure out which way the ocean is.
So they are fully sighted as soon as they emerge?
Sure.
Okay. Another thing that we've observed on other babies, and I'm not sure if we got a shot of it here, and that's a fin swipe. Look, you can see another one emerging right there. A fin swipe where they actually take their little front flipper and wipe it over their eye to get the sand out of the way. Is any of that going on here?
Not that I've seen yet, but what's really going on here is they're trying to figure out where the ocean is, and they've basically been programmed to move away from tall, dark silhouettes like sand dunes and trees and towards the brightest open horizon. So that could be, this happens day or night, and it's essentially working here.
This is interesting. This little fella is a good example of how they can get themselves in trouble. Now, that was left there as dummy beach gear, so people wouldn't come there. They would think people were already there. There's a chance he could go down into the fin. He didn't. We helped him on his way. There was another little guy who walked upon just a wisp of coconut husk fiber and got entangled, and that would have been the last of him, but we helped him along too. What do you think would be the range? Oh, there's a good perspective with a coffee cup. These guys are what, about 1.25 inches in diameter?
A couple inches.
A couple inches? From nose to from stem to stern?
Shell length, yeah.
Okay. What would be a range of the years before these babies will return to this beach?
That's something that we aren't fully aware of. It's going to be around 20 to maybe 40, maybe even 60 years.
That they'll be out free swimming in the ocean?
Oh, when they're free swimming, that's a different question. Basically, what we're watching here is called the frenzy period. Their mission in life right now is to get to the ocean, and once they get to the ocean, they're going to orient into the oncoming waves and swim out over the reef and into the deep ocean currents. And that's where they're going to be spending a few years of their lives, we're not sure how long, and then they're going to be hiding in floating debris, whether it be natural or unnatural, and feeding off everything that's in that little ecosystem that floating things in the middle of the ocean create. And then it's going to be around 3 years maybe, and that's when they're going to come back to make it all the way back to Hawaii. It'll be able to navigate back here to grow up for the rest of their lives, and that's where they stay. Once they get back here, they don't leave Hawaii.
This is the last little turtle. We're calling him Little Bubba. And that's interesting, the frenzy period. You told me about that before. They're hardwired for this rapid fin movement, and you think it lasts maybe around 3 days. And with their other instincts at play, which is away from tall silhouettes, and you say they also have a natural instinct, we're going to see this in a minute, to find out which way the waves are coming and to swim into the waves in search of the current. So typically the frenzy would last for, what, a certain distance offshore?
We're not really sure about these guys, but it's been studied quite a lot in the Atlantic Ocean, Florida and the Carolinas, with the loggerheads. They swim for the first day straight, day and night, and then all the next day, and then at night they sort of start to take a break, and they kind of float out there, and they kind of flip their front flippers on their back, rest, and the next day they'll swim again, and then it's just going to keep on going until, I don't know if we know that they actually know that they're in the right spot, or the currents just happen to be there, and it's real kind of a big mystery. It's really interesting, the fact that they cruise the whole entire Pacific Ocean or Atlantic Basin oceans.
Okay, now these little turtles, their mother was Orion. Can you tell us briefly, where has Orion been?
Orion has been everywhere. We've affixed a satellite transmitter and a radio transmitter to her, and that enables us to track her movements. And she has gone from Big Beach, where she laid her eggs, to Kaho'olawe, and then to Lahaina area, and back to Big Beach. Swam all around the east side of Maui, and has gone, past Hana towards Kahului, but then she made a beeline to Oahu. And at this point, that's where she is right now. We're not sure if that's where she's going to live.
Has she completely circumnavigated Maui?
Not completely, but...
But she did make a beeline to Oahu?
Yeah.
And we think she may come back. Okay, well, how many miles, estimating, has she been on that route?
It's about 200 kilometers just from the North Shore of Hawaii, from North Shore of Maui to Oahu, where she is now, in about 10 days.
And for the remedial among us, 200 kilometers is 120 miles in 10 days. I hope I got that right. Okay, so a couple things I wanted to point out about these guys, where they're headed. McKenna Beach is unusual because unlike most beaches, there is no reef right offshore. Now, the reef represents their first turtle, correct?
Yes, there's all kinds of predators. They're going to be eating these guys. We've got Roy, Lua, anything that's bigger than them is going to.
And Roy is not the guy next door. What is a Roy?
Roy is a peacock grouper.
Peacock
it's an
grouper.
Introduced species. It's kind of made quite a niche for itself here on the reef.
And a Lua is a jet crevalle. That's one of the jack family, very aggressive predator. These guys seem to be doing pretty well so far. You can see they're pretty rubbery. They can take a punch, and they roll around in the boil here until things straighten out. I noticed that, for example, right here, they get perfectly still. They see the wave has passed, they get up and go again.
Yep.
I guess that's what we all have to learn sooner or later to do in life.
They're waiting for their perfect wave.
I also noticed, just snorkeling lately in Maui waters, a good deal of plankton. Do you think that's a natural timing in nature to give them something to feed on in 3 days?
There's just so much we don't know about these guys. I mean, everything in nature happens for a reason, so if it's a natural plankton...
Here's one of my favorite segments in this. This is me, Snorkel Bob, helping little Bubba, who got stuck in a deep footprint. And we don't know for sure that the imprint was sent, but we think it's a possibility. So we just think it's best not to touch them. And I guess a case could be made that I'm scenting the sand, but these beaches are so walked on by humans that may be an incidental factor at this point. And sure enough, little Bubba's making his way right towards the ocean, slowly but surely.
It's going to be important to let the hatchling turtles crawl on their own, like we were mentioning, because they need to do this imprinting process. It's basically it could be maybe navigational kind of a cue, and this guy's a little
on his back.
Looks like he needs help. You want to help him so bad, but actually he's
see, interesting. He takes off the wrong way. Wait a minute. Turns right around. So they get pretty smart pretty quick.
They know what to do. They know what to do.
Well, when they do get out there, so we think that maybe they feed on the plankton. What else might there be?
Anything that's floating in those little ecosystems that they're floating on. It's important that they're around some sort of floating object because they're not countershaded by a lot of fish are. They're brown all over. So they're going to want to find shelter.
One thing I noticed interesting here on Little Bubba, see the back flippers look as almost like, say, a solid rear axle instead of independent rear suspension. Now, keep an eye on that. When a wave washes over, you'll see those back flippers kind of separate. Does that mean that there was some kind of maybe yolk from the egg sac that got stuck in there and tightened him up?
It's really hard to say. It looks like he just needs to get a little warmed up.
A little wet?
He just needs to.
He's still sandy. You'll see a big difference once he gets wet.
Yeah, he's making it though.
He's got the spirit, that's for sure.
He's determined. Or she. We don't really know if this is a boy or a girl.
Well, I guess we'll hope for a she-male because, and I don't mean a cross-dressing turtle, but I mean a female is what I should have said. How often does an adult hawksbill turtle have to breed, do you know?
We've actually been tracking Orion, the mom that laid these turtles' eggs. Her longest downtime has been 2 hours and 5 minutes. But that could be, that's only our brief days of observations, but...
That's a pretty good go, and what would be your guess for these little guys?
After they get oriented and figure out, oh my gosh, I have to come up and breathe, they'll get used to it a little bit longer.
This is one of my favorite things. Okay, Little Bubba got set back by the wave. He's coming up on this footprint thinking, there it is, the ocean. I know the ocean when I see it. Made it at last. Hey, what's going on? The ocean just drained out. Maybe that wasn't it. Never give up. Now you can see a much different appearance, all cleaned off. And cute little guy looks happy. And you can see now that the rear flippers look a little bit more independent in their movement. We don't know where exactly they go. As Cheryl pointed out, they head for the currents. Now at McKenna Beach, the current is relatively close. It's between 1/4 and 1/2 mile out. It's a pretty good current, maybe between a knot and 2 knots. And it heads south out to the deep ocean. And one of the things we want to point out is that, in the conservation movement, it's picking up momentum all over the world, mostly among ground level people, much more so than governments, which is something that Kimo Keo just pointed out. There is an emphasis in some conservation areas that nature should be preserved for the access and benefit to humanity. The other school is the one that we subscribe to, and that is that wilderness areas are not only okay, but they're necessary. These turtles need to be undisturbed, and the operative word here is undisturbed, and it relates specifically to human activity. They need to feed, they need to mature, they need to have a chance. Plenty of places in the world where there are no turtles whatsoever, anytime, night or day, so there should be some places in the world where there are no humans to give the other species a chance. Little Bubba is an intrepid little turtle, still heading for the ocean, making good time. We hope the next wave picks him up. It's all downhill now. Come on, that foot can go. There are additional dangers of a daylight emergence?
Definitely, and nighttime. The reason why we watch over these nests so closely is that there's all kinds of things that can happen to them. Dogs can get them, mongoose, cats. But the big thing is crabs.
Ghost crabs come out and snatch them.
Those are efficient
and once again, we have, I use the word loosely, tampered with nature. Like I say, the development of Maui and the development of the world is a tampering of nature. And we want to point out that whereas all turtles are endangered, these hawksbills or honuea are critically endangered. We had 2 nesting females on all of Maui this year, and as I mentioned before, with Cheryl's help, we're going to expand the monitoring, I should say with our help and her leadership, expand the monitoring project next year to include 10 beaches instead of only 3 beaches. And this is a natural emergence we just watched. But even this nest will be excavated, and in every excavation, we like to count between 15 and 40 additional babies that we're putting in the water. This is a sweet sight, is it not?
This is some amazing footage to see during the day and at night, whenever. Every time we see this, it's just amazing. As a marine biologist, I've seen this, countless times, but every time it's just quite amazing, very special. I hope you guys are really enjoying watching this.
And we can look forward to return in however many years it is to another healthy turtle. Hawksbill will again participate in more nests at McKenna and around the world.
Little Bubba can be the one that comes back.